In 2004, Mel Gibson released The Passion of the Christ, and the world wasn't ready. We had seen films about Jesus before, beautiful, poetic, even inspiring, but nothing prepared us for the raw shock of this one. For many, it felt less like watching a movie and more like stepping into the final hours of Christ's life. The brutality wasn't there for entertainment. It carried a message that pierced through culture, language, and even belief systems. Some viewers fainted, some walked out, some surrendered their lives to Christ in the parking lot. Why? Because unlike earlier portrayals of Jesus, often gentle and sanitized, this film dared to show the unimaginable cost of love. And that raises a question that still echoes today. Why did this movie impact the world so deeply? And why do so many people still talk about it 2 decades later? Is it the realism? The spiritual encounters reported by actors on set? The mysterious accidents during filming? Or the strange sense that this project was more than just cinema, that it was a calling? In this video, we're going to explore 5 astonishing, emotional, and even supernatural facts about the Passion of the Christ, things most viewers never knew, and stories that reveal the hidden weight behind its creation. We'll look at why the violence mattered far more than critics realized, how an actor found faith in a single glance, why Jim Caviezel risked his life to finish the film, and the secret reason Mel Gibson believes the casting of Jesus was divine intervention. Finally, we'll talk about the long-awaited sequel, the resurrection, and why it may become even more powerful than the original, despite being less violent. But before we start the journey, I want to ask you something, not as a YouTuber, but as someone walking with you through this story. Have you ever watched a film that made you think about your faith differently? Maybe even stirred something inside you that you didn't expect? Hold that thought, because as we dive deeper, you might discover why the Passion touched so many hearts, and why its impact hasn't faded even after 20 years. 1. The shocking realism. Why the violence was necessary for more than a century. Filmmakers have tried to capture the story of Jesus. Some focused on his miracles, some on his teachings, and others on his compassion. But almost all avoided the brutal truth. Crucifixion was designed to break the body and humiliate the soul. It was the most terrifying punishment the Roman Empire could inflict. Most films softened that reality. Mel Gibson refused to. Instead of portraying Christ as a distant, glowing figure who floated above pain, The Passion of the Christ showed us the cost of love in its truest form. The lashes, the bruises, the blood, the weight of the cross. Every moment pushed viewers to confront something uncomfortable. Salvation was not clean or easy. It was purchased through suffering that no human being should ever endure. Many critics argued the film was too violent. Church leaders worried. Journalists debated ethics. Some theaters even refused to screen it. But Gibson insisted on the opposite. If we sanitize the cross, we miss the meaning of the cross. And millions of people around the world agreed, because for the first time, viewers didn't just hear that Jesus suffered, they felt it. And that emotional connection led countless individuals to ask themselves, if he endured all of that, what does that say about his love for me? What most people don't realize is this: the violence in the film isn't the point, it's the contrast. In the middle of agony, Jesus prays for his enemies. While being struck, he shows compassion. As blood falls from his wounds, he whispers forgiveness. This contrast between unimaginable suffering and immeasurable love is what moved so many viewers to tears. The brutality isn't meant to shock, it's meant to reveal the depth of divine mercy, because every wound symbolizes something deeper. Our brokenness, our past sins, our quiet betrayals, our hidden wounds. And yet, in the midst of all that darkness, the film reminds us of one truth: love endures even when humanity fails. 2. A casting story that felt like destiny. Among all the behind-the-scenes stories, one detail still fascinates many believers: the casting of Jim Caviezel. Mel Gibson didn't know him personally. They had no previous conversation, no working relationship, no personal connection that would logically lead to the role. Yet one day, Gibson called him out of nowhere and asked, "Do you want to play Jesus?" Caviezel was stunned. Even his agents didn't know the opportunity existed. But what made this moment truly remarkable wasn't the surprise. It was the timing. Jim Caviezel was 33 years old, the same age Jesus was when he was crucified. Coincidence? Some say yes. Gibson said absolutely not. He later quoted Jesus' own words from John 13. "You do not realize now what I am doing, But later you will understand. And here's the fascinating part. At the time, Caviezel accepted the role. He had no idea how much the film would change his life, or the lives of millions who watched it. He simply said yes. But Gibson believed it was something greater than a casting choice. He believed it was a calling. Later in the film's production, several actors said they felt a strange sense of purpose, almost as if they were participating in something beyond their profession. Some described overwhelming peace. Others felt unexplained fear. Some felt physically attacked by unseen forces. And a few, even those with little faith, said they sensed God's presence. But one actor's story stands out more than any other, and it had nothing to do with the size of his role. 3. The conversion no one expected. Barabbas and the glance that changed a life. Some roles in cinema are glamorous, some are heroic, and some are purely symbolic. But the role of Barabbas, the violent criminal freed instead of Jesus, is different. It is haunting, uncomfortable, and morally heavy. Barabbas is the man whose freedom came at the cost of Christ's suffering. His very name evokes betrayal, injustice, and the cruelty of human choice. So when Italian actor Pietro Sarubi was cast as Barabbas, he didn't think much of it. In fact, he initially hoped for something else, perhaps a disciple, a follower of Jesus, a role with more screen time and a bigger paycheck. At that time, Sarubi wasn't particularly religious, nor was he living a life shaped by Christian principles. He wasn't expecting to be part of a deeply spiritual project. He certainly wasn't expecting what happened next. A single scene that became a turning point. Sarubi appears in only one major moment in the film, the famous scene where Pilate offers the crowd a choice, Jesus or Barabbas. When Barabbas is released, he walks past Jesus. Just a few seconds, just one exchange of glances, just one silent moment. But for Sarubi, that moment shattered everything. He later described that split second as overwhelming, almost supernatural. He said that when he looked into Jim Caviezel's eyes portraying a beaten, bloodied Christ, he didn't see an actor, he didn't see a character, he didn't see performance. He said he saw Jesus himself, not literally, but profoundly. He felt a tenderness he couldn't explain, a mercy that disarmed him, a love that reached deeper than the script, the cameras, or the role he was playing. Sarubi said, "It was as if Jesus was looking at me, into me. I felt loved and forgiven." That moment changed his life. From that day forward, he said he could no longer live the same way. He felt as if something in his heart had awakened, something quiet but unmistakably real. What makes Sarubi's conversion so powerful is not just his personal experience. It's what the role symbolizes. Barabbas is the man who walks free while Jesus is condemned. He is the guilty one who is spared. He is the sinner who finds himself unexpectedly released. And in Christian theology, Barabbas represents every one of us. We are the ones set free. We are the ones Christ took the place of. We are the ones who deserve judgment but received mercy instead. Sarubi later wrote a book titled Barabbas, Converted by a Glance, where he describes how that moment, not fame, not success, not the film industry, transformed the trajectory of his life. His story became one of modern cinema's most surprising testimonies. A man who entered the film expecting a paycheck, left with a new heart. But he wasn't the only one changed during filming. Another actor, the one who portrayed Jesus himself, experienced something far more intense, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And his story might be the most astonishing of all. 4. Jim Caviezel's suffering when acting became a calling. If Pietro Sarubi's experience was surprising, then Jim Caviezel's journey was nothing short of extraordinary. Many actors talk about losing themselves in a role, but rarely does that phrase mean what it meant during the filming of The Passion of the Christ. Caviezel didn't simply act the part of Jesus, he lived it, endured it, and in many ways suffered through it. While filmmakers use special effects, props, and camera tricks to simulate pain, this production ended up pushing Caviezel into territory no actor ever expects to face. Real injuries, real pain, real sacrifice. During the filming, he dislocated his shoulder while carrying the cross. The cross fell on his head, causing a concussion. He was accidentally whipped, leaving a 14-inch, 35-centimeter gash on his back. He suffered pneumonia. He experienced hypothermia during the outdoor crucifixion scene. He endured constant migraines and struggled to breathe. He lost nearly 15 kilograms, and in a moment that shocked the crew, he was struck by lightning. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Literally struck by lightning while filming the Sermon on the Mount scenes. Caviezel later recalled feeling his body crack with electricity while he stood on the hill, the makeup smoke rising from his clothes. The assistant director who stood next to him was also thrown to the ground. People on set couldn't believe it. Some said it felt like spiritual warfare. Others said it felt like a sign. But what makes this even more astonishing is Caviezel's response. "If I die making this film, it won't be in vain." As his health deteriorated, the medical team warned Mel Gibson that Caviezel's condition was dangerous. They advised pausing the production, taking a break, letting him recover. Gibson was ready to halt filming. Caviezel refused. He said the suffering wasn't an obstacle. It was part of the journey. He believed that portraying Christ wasn't merely a job, but a divine assignment. He said he felt that he was being allowed, in some mysterious way, to taste a fraction of what Jesus endured, and he wasn't afraid. "This is between me and God," he told Gibson. "If I have to give my life for this film, then let it be so." This wasn't reckless. This wasn't pride. This was conviction. Caviezel believed souls would be touched through this film. He believed the world needed a portrayal of Jesus that wasn't softened or sanitized, but honest and unfiltered. And if that meant suffering, so be it. At one point, while filming the Via Dolorosa scenes, the moment Jesus carries the cross through the streets of Jerusalem, Caviezel lost his footing. The cross slammed onto him, pinning him to the ground. The groan he let out wasn't scripted. The pain wasn't fabricated. The blood on his face wasn't makeup. And Mel Gibson kept the cameras rolling. Many viewers don't realize that some of the most emotionally powerful scenes in the film are not performances. They are real reactions to real suffering. And yet, Caviezel said something even more shocking in an interview. "Everyone wants the resurrection, but no one wants the suffering." He compared it to an Olympic athlete winning a gold medal. The victory means nothing without the years of pain, training, discipline, and sacrifice. And when the national anthem plays, athletes often cry because they remember everything it cost. Caviezel said Christ's sacrifice was no different. "We love the victory. We love the empty tomb. But we often forget the suffering that came before it." And that was the heart of the film. To remember, to understand, to feel, even faintly, the price of love. A role that transformed a life after the movie. Caviezel didn't simply return to Hollywood. He devoted years to speaking openly about Jesus, the cross, the cost of discipleship, and the spiritual battles believers face. He traveled, gave talks, and shared testimonies. He believed that playing Jesus wasn't the highlight of his career. It was the mission of his life. But while Caviezel's story is incredible, it leads us to another question, one that millions have been asking since the film's release. What comes next? And the answer is something fans have been waiting to hear for almost 2 decades. 5. The Resurrection. What we know about the long-awaited sequel. For years, audiences around the world have asked the same question. Will there ever be a sequel to The Passion of the Christ? The original film ended at the most mysterious, triumphant, and transformative moment in Christian history, the resurrection. But its portrayal was brief, almost symbolic. A quiet glimpse of light, a stone rolling away, a silent Christ rising. It was powerful, but it wasn't the whole story. And Mel Gibson knew it. A new chapter began in recent interviews. Gibson finally confirmed what many believers had hoped for. He is already developing the sequel, titled The Resurrection. This won't be just another biblical retelling. It won't be a simple continuation of the first film. From everything Gibson has hinted at, this project aims to explore something deeper, the spiritual realm, the unseen battles, the cosmic victory that unfolded between the cross and the empty tomb. He described it not as a traditional narrative, but as an experience, a cinematic window into the mystery that Christians have pondered for 2,000 years. What will the sequel show? Though details remain limited, several themes have been confirmed or strongly hinted. The descent of Christ into the realm of the dead, a powerful moment from early Christian tradition often referred to as the harrowing of hell. The confusion and fear among the Roman guard. The silence of Mary as she waits in faith, despite overwhelming grief. The shattered hope of the disciples, who wrestle with doubt and despair. The dawning realization that death itself has been defeated. Gibson even revealed that the film may include imagery inspired by the Book of Revelation, the Messianic Psalms, ancient Jewish and early Christian writings on the 3 days between death and resurrection, So even without the intense violence of the first film, this sequel may be emotionally and spiritually overwhelming in a different way. Think about it. The Passion shows us the price of sin, but the resurrection shows us the victory of grace. The Passion shows suffering. The resurrection shows triumph. The Passion breaks the heart. The resurrection restores hope. One reveals the depth of Christ's love. The other reveals the power of His glory. If the first film showed why we need salvation, the second will show what salvation accomplishes. And perhaps that's why many believe the sequel may be even more impactful than the original. Because the resurrection isn't just the end of the story, it is the new beginning that reshaped the world. A film for a new generation. A lot has changed since 2004. People today are more anxious, more skeptical, more divided, and more hungry for clarity than ever before. A film about the resurrection, made with sincerity, depth, and artistic courage, has the potential to reach people who may never walk into a church or open a Bible. For many, the first film brought tears. This one may bring transformation, because in a world obsessed with darkness, corruption, and fear, the message of Christ rising from the dead is not just inspirational, it's revolutionary. Before we close, I want to leave you with a question, one not meant to judge you, but to help you reflect in your own heart. What part of Christ's story speaks to you the most? His suffering, His forgiveness, or His victory? Your answer matters more than you think, because when you share your story, you might inspire someone who desperately needs hope, comfort, or a reminder that God is still working, quietly, powerfully, and personally. Thank you for watching. Thank you for walking through this journey with me, and most of all, may God bless you and draw you closer to His heart every day. I'll see you in the next video.